up, guys? Had a great show today. Cannot wait for you to check it out. Today I talked to David Lopez, Officer David Lopez, I believe, of the Houston Police Department. He is in charge of the head of the Iron Pigs Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And this is a jiu-jitsu club that's sponsored by the Houston Police Department. We went over a ton of stuff from his personal background as the head DT instructor at the Houston Police Department, as well as the changes that they have used within their department, as well as starting up a 501c3 nonprofit for their jiu-jitsu club in order to help out injured and downed officers financially, which is incredible. So many cool things that they're doing with this club and with their department that we really talked a lot about not only jiu-jitsu and defensive tactics and combatives, but also talked about physical training, PT, utilization of all of those different things combined for both training recruits and training cops and creating solidarity within the law enforcement community. So really cool stuff. Whether you are a civilian listening to this or a sworn officer, you're going to get something from this for sure. So without further ado, here is Officer David Lopez. I'll do my best. It's going to be hard not to say stupid stuff about our department, so I mean, this.
Oh, that's what I was telling my wife, the exact same thing. It's going to be difficult.
Well, hey, thanks for joining me, man. Welcome to another edition of Redefining Alpha. And with me today, I'll just kick it over to you, man. You can introduce yourself and tell us a little bit who you are and what you're up to.
All right. My name is David Lopez. I am, I suppose, the senior most defensive tactics instructor for the Houston Police Department. I joined the department ripe old age of 21, 1999. And I've been there ever since. My background prior to joining the police department was in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I was lucky enough to find that sport back in 1994, 93, maybe. Memory's off. I'm getting old. But I enjoyed, patrol. I enjoyed being a TAC officer in HPD. But then I found a calling over there in the gym, defensive tactics, and made some changes there as far as what was being done to train police officers in our city. So that's pretty much my background. I do have a master's degree in exercise science, human performance with American Public University, which is a little offset of American Military University. And so my whole background is about Hicks law and action versus reaction time as it relates to, first responders like ourselves and the physiological effects of duress. So yeah, this is definitely my cup of tea. What you're doing, is definitely right along the lines, except I've never made myself public. I've always been private with regard to what I do for a living. The city of Houston has a lot of police officers killed in the line of duty. I think we're Harris County, which is where Houston's located in, is one of the most dangerous counties in the entire country, except for when 9/11 happened, of course. So always kept my identity out of it until Chief Acevedo approved of our grappling team. And I feel so strongly about it. I had no choice but to kind of come out and try to get as many people to train as possible.
Yeah, man, I'm right with you. It sucks and it's scary, to honestly to put yourself out there on social media, and it's like we spend so much time trying not to be noticed, by the public, where it's like it feels so foreign and like I don't want to say like you feel dirty doing it, but it's definitely not natural, It's got to be something you work on, that's for sure.
Yeah, I have to. Part of the duty is, testify in court to use of force cases and things of that nature. So I am a little public. I do have to speak in public an awful lot to, civilian groups and whatnot. So I'm not opposed to being out there, but as far as social media, I've never, ever had my face associated with, the Houston Police Department. But, the red tape I had to jump through just to get on the podcast was it was there. I'll say that.
Yep, it always is. But what I think you're doing is awesome. And if more officers do what you're doing and what this podcast is meant to do for, like we need to change the culture of not just training, but like just physical, like the physicalness of the job. It has to be more of a forefront of what we do. And unless guys like you are willing to step up and at least be somewhat of a face and put yourself out there, then the message doesn't get across. So I applaud you for doing it for sure.
You're doing the same.
So tell me a little bit about the grappling club, man, and basically like how it started and, what you guys are doing with it.
Sure thing. As a full-time DT instructor, I mean, we have upwards of 5 classes at a time, 70 cadets per class. So I stay pretty busy, and that's kind of how the club actually started. Because basically we, in defensive tactics, or the majority of us anyway, make ourselves available for extra training for pre-service or recruits and cadets pretty much anytime they can and anytime we're free. So if they want to come in before work, if they want to train during their lunch, I'm there. I'm on the mats. I'm doing some form of combatives or weapon transition drills and things of that nature. Our sergeant is also a black belt in BJJ. Sergeant Brooks has allowed a lot of change to occur, a lot of progressive change. And our chain of command, who at the time was Lieutenant Coker, got to give credit where credit is due, have allowed us to be progressive, especially with regard to the cadet training curriculum. And so with my education and my history, I was allowed to change some of the lesson plans. And of course, we had to jump through hoops to do all of that, as you can imagine, working for a government entity. But once that was done, and once I got my education as far as the master's degree is concerned, I was able to change the physical training curriculum as well and increase that from a sporadic physical training curriculum to a 3-day-a-week for 6-month physical training curriculum. And so the grappling team, I mean, I'm still on topic with you, started there. How can I get 70 people to increase physical fitness and preparedness for this job while developing a skill set that can be used the moment they get onto the street, using the lesson plans that were created? And that's by integrating the physical training with our defensive tactics lesson plans. I don't like to use the words combative, but police combatives or whatever it is you want to call it, arrest procedures, different entities have different terminology for it. We have adopted personal weapons terminology that the DOJ uses, and that's more, along the lines of what we do. I think you'll like this part. I believe a lot in stress inoculation. I believe in the law of specificity. It's keeping it simple, stupid. That's my favorite acronym. And so if you can integrate sprints, for example, or multiple high crotch wrestling takedowns, which is in essence a deadlift type of movement, because I don't have the equipment for 70 people, get our cadets as tired as possible. I don't know if you know about Houston, but it's like 160,000 degrees, with 100% humidity. And I think about all the officers that are graduated and they're on the street dealing with mosquitoes and the heat and the sun and different shifts. So the cadets are out there at 5:30 in the morning getting stressed physically. Then I'm putting them in the grass in the center of the track or wherever we happen to be along the bayou. Houston's called the Bayou City, if you don't know that already. And we're running along the bayou or whatnot, and then I make them escape bad positions. I'm sure you've seen video out there of officers getting into physical confrontations and they look completely lost, absolutely completely lost. I hate seeing those videos. I know you hate seeing those videos. Anybody who's pro-police or trains police or is a police officer hates seeing those videos.
It's painful.
It is, isn't it? Especially when you're out of shape, which is the most important factor to police combatives, in my opinion, is physical preparedness. But making them escape bad positions under that type of stress is really what started this program. Over the course of time, cadets would graduate and come back on their lunch period, and it was an unofficial club, and we started training. Luckily, our chief Acevedo, is really big into community relations and relational policing is really what he calls it, and approved of the team, which is incredible. That allows us to train. Of course, officers have to be off duty in order to do it, and they do so on their time, but we offer free training to any law enforcement officer here, and it has grown into something I never thought it would be. So on any given day that we're training, there's over 40 officers on the mat.
Wow.
on their time.
Dude, that is incredible. That's amazing.
I love it. Yeah, I absolutely love it. And I cannot tell you how many of our HPD and even some county officers come back and they talk about the techniques that are used for BJJ or grappling or our combatives program, on the street, and they discuss it. And I can't stop now. Even if I wanted to stop, I can't stop this program. It's just growing. So Chief Acevedo, I have to give him an enormous amount of credit for just allowing us to exist, just like he allowed the boxing team to exist. And it builds camaraderie. And with regard to the relational policing, every week we've been able to go to different gyms across the city of Houston. We are a very big Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu hub for our country. So many good facilities everywhere. And they've opened their arms up to us. And Iron Pigs Training, which is our unofficial name, is welcome. So if we have our gear and you walk into a gym for an open mat, they welcome us, and then they proceed to beat us up, of course. So I think that's incredible, because we literally go to gyms across our city as police officers. They know we're police officers, and then they welcome us on their mats, and we actually integrate into our communities with that. So,
yeah, dude, that's big. That's huge. To get that many cops involved off time to train, is awesome. That just speaks to the culture that you guys are creating. Because without that culture, it doesn't matter how good the program is, people aren't going to show up. So the fact that you guys do tournaments and stuff too, right?
We do.
Yeah.
So part of the team is we have tournaments. We're going to be hosting a tournament. And that's another way to get out into the community and show that our officers have options. We have force options between the point of contact and our taser and or baton or use of deadly force. It's huge. All these guys love the fact that we're training, and we have this type of curriculum in place from day one at the academy. And again, that was because of Chief Acevedo and the direct chain of command understanding the importance of this type of training.
Yeah. I think a lot of this comes down to the fact that you utilize the sport aspect of BJJ and basically make it, I don't want to say gamify it, but it makes it more than just training DTs, just putting in work. Like there's a payoff at the end. It's kind of like CrossFit. Like the only reason that CrossFit got as popular as it did was because of the competitive drive and the nature that it is. And then it doesn't hurt that they created a sport out of it as well. So that's just, kind of like different, but sort of the same as far as encouraging and reinforcing people to continue to come.
Yes. Interest is huge. When people, for example, we have quite a few officers that are homegrown Iron Pigs, if you will. They have never trained in a different facility, and then they go to a tournament and they win. We did so well. One of the pictures on our Instagram feed and Facebook page and website have us after a competition in Dallas that we went to, and guys that have never stepped foot into a formal Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gym, took home gold that day, and they're homegrown with us. And the fire that lit underneath them to continue to train, because the sport of Jiu-Jitsu is so complicated and dynamic. There's so many facets to it. You're constantly learning and re-engaging and having to figure out different problems physically. It's like the game of chess with the body. Mm-hmm. That the interest stays there. During the course of the 6 months with my cadets, or our cadets in DT, it's a little boring. You keep it so simple. To me, it's boring. I'm sure it's not to somebody who hasn't seen it before. But we have to keep it simple, because I look at it from the whole. I look at it as if these guys are never going to train again. What can I inject them with for when they go to the street the first day? And keeping it as simple as we possibly can is the only way to do that. But I try to incorporate them into more training so that they continue to train once they leave the academy.
Yeah, and again, that to me is a huge component of whether it's a physical training program, a weightlifting program, a defensive tactics program, combatives, whatever you want to call it, is not just giving them the skills to go and survive and thrive through this job, but also to instill a love of training and continue to educate themselves and push themselves, beyond the academy.
Exactly. Right now, there's 3 days officially that we train, and on the other days, especially for our active competitors, because not all 48 of our active members, because we have 48 approximately that come regularly, the actual competitors go to a private gym. It's an Officer Crawford. He's literally my right-hand man. I'm a little older. I'm riddled with injury, and that young man comes in, and he was a professional fighter. Recently won Golden Gloves. He was like the face of our boxing team for a while. He comes in and he does what I can't do, and he takes him over to his home where he has his 3-car garage completely converted into one of the most beautiful gyms I've seen as far as BJJ and strength and conditioning and you name it. And they do strength and conditioning in his house. And so the 8 guys that we have that are serious competitors, meaning they wake up thinking about it. They train in the morning. They go to work. They get off of work and they want to do some more training. They go to his house for the strength and conditioning just because, I'm dealing with hundreds of cadets throughout the day. Without him, the continued training outside of, what we provide as a team, wouldn't exist. Plus his coaching is pretty ridiculous as well.
That's great. All right. So obviously your background is BJJ, but why jiu-jitsu? Why is that important for police work? So how do you bridge the gap between the sports side of it, the game side of it, and then the real application? Because I know I've done some moderate training in BJJ. I'm not going to pretend like I have any rank or anything, but I've had some conversations after training with guys in like civilian gyms, and they don't really understand the police application of how quickly things transpire.
You're forcing me to make some people angry. So my first coach was Nick Sanzo in upstate New York, where I went to high school and met my beautiful wife who's around the corner. I got to give her some credit for allowing me to do all of this stuff. But Nick was affiliated with Renzo Gracie and Craig Kukik at the time in upstate, north of Albany. Now, you don't get more old school than that.
Right.
And so you had an old school BJJ mentality, if you will, versus what we call a new school version. The sport didn't really even exist when I started. Nick fought in UFC 12, kind of taking it way back.
Yes.
And of course, Renzo had been fighting, many years before then. And Professor Kukik as well in Brazil, he was one of the original Dirty Dozen Americans to receive a black belt in BJJ. So I bring that old school mentality into police work. I don't do – so this is going to make you laugh a little bit, I think. We do tournaments now as part of the BJJ team, but I don't like points. We train our guys for getting the takedown, maintaining a positive, dominant type of a position, being able to move from one dominant position to another, constantly looking for the submission. I don't want points. I don't want to win by points, and I don't want to win by advantage or stalling. That is the old mentality. That's exactly what we bring to the Houston Police Department with my old head mentality, if you will. And a lot of the new school guys are angry with me right now, I'm sure of it, because you won't see me doing inverted guards or anything incredibly complicated. I am a leg lock guy. I do love leg locks, not with regard to inversions. So keeping it as simple as you possibly can, clinching, knowing how to get to the back from a standing position. And how is this relevant to police work? Well, we're not going to throw a set of handcuffs at somebody and automatically, that are going to automatically be handcuffed. You can't do it. It's just not possible. You're not going to punch somebody into handcuffs either. It doesn't look that good nowadays. Not that we would want to do that anyway, but if you look at goals, and I think people fail to look at goals. The goal of police work is putting cuffs on somebody at the end of the day. Of course, there's other things that can occur in the process of all of that, but the goal is handcuffing. You don't kick somebody into handcuffs. You don't do any of that kind of stuff, although those are skills and tactics that we absolutely develop and need, especially with the footwork. But the goal, handcuffing. We have to grab somebody. I don't know if you know this or not, but I had to do a bunch of research for being able to change the lesson plans. And one of the things that I was able to do is talk with and obtain the Department of Justice, FBI Defensive Tactics Manual. And what they found since 1971 or 67, don't quote me on the date itself, is that getting custody or during the process of getting a suspect into custody is the most dangerous aspect of police work, and it always has. That means that we are in the grappling distance. We're grabbing a hold of them to put cuffs on. It's only second to car crashes, and that's pretty similar with the general public that say, drive cars for a living. But after that, it's when we're putting somebody in custody is when we get hurt and are killed the most. And so it's difficult to argue the point that grappling isn't the most important aspect of police work. Now that's when I say grappling, it's not just Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It's Sambo. It's wrestling, especially wrestling. The drive of a wrestler is second to none. I mean, it's probably similar to your drive with regard to your sport. As the endurance is there, the strength is there. That American wrestler mentality is just ridiculous. And then of course you have, more traditional aspects of judo, and all of these things are relevant to police work with regard to putting a suspect into custody using the minimum amount of force needed to effect that arrest, which is exactly what we're all supposed to do. Of course, we have to use distraction strikes and stuff like that. I'm not opposed to striking. I box myself. My partner Chris is actually my boxing coach. But yeah, it's difficult to argue that grappling isn't the most important aspect of taking a person into custody. So when somebody trains under stress, and when you go into a jiu-jitsu class, like you said, you've gone to them before, you're constantly under stress. You're tired, and the more tired you are, the more your opponent or your training partner tries to get you in something. There's a significant amount of pressure that you're having to deal with, and you're pushed. And if you were wearing a gi, which is very similar to our uniforms, you're being smothered as well. And you're having to operate calmly under that, because flailing about doesn't do anything but present holes. And so what I'm saying is, our guys that train, grappling forces an officer or any human to be humbled and to know how to operate under a certain amount of stress and thinking while they're doing it, which is very important. I mean, going Hulk doesn't really help. And so I think a lot more of the guys that train, not just guys, but all of the officers that train, know and have had their ego checked and know that everybody is beatable. And so it does nothing but help with regard to controlling the suspect and knowing when we might need to go ahead and wait for his backup too, which is all DT related.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is that the way you guys teach and the way you guys compete is much more of based on pressure and being the aggressor rather than like sitting back and waiting and like counter punching.
That would be how I would do it. However, we all have our own styles.
Right.
So some of the guys really prefer to work, open guard. And, we're going to develop that because we have to be able to escape bad positions. And that's what we do. When you look at the cadet aspect of the curriculum, we're escaping bad positions. We need to be able to get back to our feet to prevent the takedown. It's our life. It's not points. It's not a tournament. It's our life. And so the guys that do the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu sport that start, say, on their back, or they prefer to be an open guard or closed guard or whatnot, and look for sweeps and submissions off of their back, they're the best at escaping. They're the best at being able to stand up with the just integration of a little bit of wrestling. It's pretty phenomenal. We definitely don't want to focus 100% on top pressure, which I do like a lot. But don't want to focus on that because you get good at that. And so we know once we get a wrestler on their back, they're horrible at defending submissions and things like that. And so we have to work from the worst positions. I guess I have to quote Chris Hart. I always pronounce his name wrong, but he's one of the original Dirty Dozen and somebody that I admire, and I look at his videos all the time on the internet. But he has 4 rules for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he's old school. Again, as old school as you can get. He says, rule number 1, be the guy on top. Rule number 2, once on top, stay on top. Rule number 3, have an impassable guard, which to me means be able to stand up and get out of a bad position at any point in time. And then rule number 4, never forget rule number 1. And that is actually one of my methodologies, or as far as what I'm thinking about for our cadets and what I'm thinking about for our sport Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu officers that train. Keeping it real, if you will.
Yeah. I think you can't really argue with that advice. What was I guess one thing I want to kind of go back to is the fact that you said grappling in general is arguably the most important part of police work. And I couldn't agree with that more from a physical standpoint. I've never seen or been part of any type of physical altercation that has not gone to the ground, and when things go that direction, like you don't stand people back up once you tackle them and put them in handcuffs. Like you said, like it just doesn't happen. So if you're not at least comfortable rolling around in the dirt, with another person, like it's at some point things are not going to go well for you.
it's a game of chance at that point. And I've gone to too many officers' funerals that lost that type of a fight to accept not training as a option. You know what I mean? And so I actually think about exactly what you just said. But I would, when I meant the most important aspect of police work, it's fitness in general, because Socrates said the most outstanding runner cannot compare to the most average of wrestler. And it's not the exact quote, but basically that's what he said, because it's both aerobic and anaerobic. You have to learn to explode with one area of your body, but keep the other area of your body loose in order to escape positions. So it's body awareness and everything. But fitness in general, physical preparedness with psychological skills type of training, which I'm a huge proponent of. I mean, that really is the biggest part. So if people leave our academy and all they do is strength and conditioning, that is huge. That is the biggest factor for safety. But when you're taking a suspect into custody, I think that kind of switches slightly to the grappling aspect of things. And I would say striking as well with the footworks and being able to explode into certain takedowns from various positions too.
Yeah, and it kind of reminds me of a quote from one of my favorite quotes from Vince Lombardi. You know, fatigue makes cowards of us all. So you can have the most badass dude on the whole planet, but if he's winded after one or two big punches, like, I'm going to be okay. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to survive that.
Exactly. I personally train out of Ground Dwellers in Spring, Texas under Eddie Avalar. That's my coach. And, you know, he's nothing but supportive of us doing this. On his wall, it says a fatigued body will betray a tireless mind. I don't know, it's unknown origin or anything like that, but man, that couldn't be farther from the truth. You know, it couldn't be more true, I should say.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, man. So I'm trying to think what else we wanted to cover here. Before we jump off, you said you revamped your PT program. So we talked about the combatives that you're doing, the jiu-jitsu club, all that kind of stuff, but you mentioned you revamped that. So what did it used to be and how did you change it?
I did, along with, Sergeant Brooks and Lieutenant Coker at the time. We're able to make a few changes. For example, in 1999, our combatives program consisted of, wrist locks, standing, things of that nature. Our PT program was sporadic at best. We didn't have physical training curriculum that was 3 days a week. And so one of the things that Sergeant Brooks wanted to have is physical training 3 days a week. What that turned into is basically track and field events, which I'm not opposed to. And I think that runners are amazing athletes overall, but we need more. I mean, we're not running 2 miles after a suspect. We need more explosion, more sprinting, more variation. And so I'm always going to be for physical training of any kind whatsoever. That was 9-10 years ago that we're talking about here. The changes that we moved to more metabolic resistance training, varying the types of physical activities. Now I know undulated periodization, or daily undulated periodization is more of a weight training concept, but the actual concept itself applies to us. I don't want to tire any one system of a cadet. I want to develop them all. And I want to develop them all in different ways and be able to adjust on a daily basis, which requires a coach, not a track and field type of curriculum. And so one of the things that we do is we'll use wrestling pummeling, like the pummeling drill, which is obtaining, overhooks or underhooks as an active rest to allow a spiked heart rate to kind of come down. And that's how this has changed mostly, is through using the concept of daily undulated periodization and some metabolic resistance training in there, using various types of body weight exercises that change and progressively advance over the course of 6 months, using active rest periods, using combatives. It could be simple 1-2 combos, clinch work, things of that nature, wrestling takedowns to calm the heart rate down. And so we started to get even more advanced. We don't have a lot of technology, but we do have some heart rate monitors. So personally, I like getting heart rate monitors on their number one guy, and then the middle person, and then the weakest person in the class. And it gives me a gauge for the 70 people that we're working with. And all the other instructors do similar things in their ways as well. We do have a little bit of creative control over our classes. But using the heart rate, it gives me an idea of how long it takes our guys to recover. our cadets to recover. That's huge. We need to be able to be explosive and then recover in a very short period of time, as short as possible. So in 60 seconds, I want to see a significant drop in heart rate, not just with our crazy athlete, which we have a bunch of them. Like there's so many athletic cadets that come through, but also with the person in the middle. And I also want to see that in the person that struggles physically. And so being able to do that over the course of 6 months is exactly how this program has changed from simply running in circles sporadically. Then that progressed to 3 times a week. And then now we do run and we incorporate running, but it's so much different. Bear crawls, burpees, just 1-2 striking combination mixed with sprawling. We might do, like I said, we don't have 45 bars or 70 bars to do, deadlifts and different drills with the bar. We only have 3 bars. That doesn't work for a class of 70. So a nice wrestling high crotch is great. It's as close as you can get to lifting weights in the middle of a workout that we can get, or body weight carries. So we do all these type of things now. It's just possibilities are endless, as you can imagine.
Yeah, and not having barbells. I used to be of the opinion, like, because when I got into CrossFit, I was like, this is the answer to everything, in every aspect of life. So I went super, super crazy with it. And now my opinion's changed drastically about application for like barbell use in a police academy setting. And a lot of times it's not, I don't want to say it's not appropriate, but it's just not the best utilization of resistance training, because with barbell training comes risk. If somebody doesn't know how to deadlift and you have a class of 70, like you're not going to teach them how to do it. And then we're going to get ego involved, and the recruits are there to please you basically. So they're going to start loading and loading and loading. And if you're not really adept at coaching a deadlift, or maybe you miss it because there's 70 people there, like you're going to lose recruits, and that's unnecessary.
It doesn't make any sense. It says, yeah, you're right. I was just using that as an example. We don't
Right.
have equipment. We don't have 70 kettles. We don't have anything like that. We do have some battle ropes, which we incorporate some things into, but we have to use what we have.
Yeah.
Like 70 Bulgarian sandbags, I would.
Yeah, but stuff like that is just, I really think you're going to get more bang for your buck anyway. This isn't just because a barbell is easy to load and metrically understand as far as like strength gains. It doesn't always equal the best training protocols for, I would say, a police academy. So the fact that you guys are being creative is really good. And the fact that you're using, like you said, periodization with everything just guarantees that you're going to utilize the anaerobic system and the aerobic system, because a lot of times we lose sight of that aerobic system. And I've talked to a lot of really high level coaches that do a lot of work with tactical teams, and that's where they spend most of their time, is building aerobic base.
Without it, what do we have? We don't have a whole lot. I agree 100%. What's really cool, and you might like this statistic, this is across all of our cadets, not just my classes by any means. We have standardized protocol, physical agility testing for them and for our officers as well. Most of the time, like I'd say, generally speaking, the 1.5 miles is run by all cadets in under 12 minutes, and they're required to do it in under 15:54. The 300 is done around the 50-second mark or less. They're doing 72 push-ups when only 25 are required. We're talking the lowest person, the person that struggled to do 10 at the beginning, if you will. And the agility run, they're anywhere from, around the 15-second mark. Vertical jump, 24, 32 inches is typically what we get. Those are difficult to increase, of course, a vertical jump and a short agility run. But I think that having changed from a strict running type of academy to changing up a workout, stressing various systems, has decreased these numbers so much that it's hard to ignore that what we're doing isn't really good for us, especially when you add wrestling and grappling into it. Of course, I have to throw that back into it.
Yeah. Well, and then that way too, you're being creative with it, but you're also reinforcing the other things that you're working on, integrating things, together rather than just, components by themselves.
Exactly. So actually, one of the things that we've done is started a 501c3 called the Houston Police Grappling Team. And when we go to compete and obtain sponsors, I want to buy kettlebells and sandbags and things of that nature and have them donated through our organization directly to the academy. Until that happens, though, we had an officer recently, a cadet of mine. You'll like this when you talk about some of the psychological skills that I've heard about in the recent podcast. Officer Daly was hit by a drunk driver and burned over 60% of his body and had 2 broken hips. His twin brother and him were both cadets, my tenure there at the academy. So he walked himself into the hospital, and he told his brother before they put him under, a coma, a medically induced coma, to call me. And he goes, tell Officer Lopez that I walked myself in here with 2 broken hips and burned over 60% of my body. Apparently we talk. I always say, nobody cares you're tired. Mama's not here. You got to take care of yourself. If you feel pain, you're good to go. And I say that while they're grappling and having to physically struggle with another human being. And literally a couple of days after Christmas, his brother calls me and tells me that. So our focus as a 501 charitable organization is going to be raise money to help him. He's on his 30th surgery. He's still, fighting the good fight. And that's actually what is helping promote our team. Our guys are going out there and competing and making a name for our team so that we can get sponsors, so we can start to make these good donations to officers that have been injured in the line of duty. His partner, Officer Reed, was also injured. I've got to say that as well. But if we can do that and give back to our guys and ladies, of course, our officers, and we can, possibly get some equipment for the academy to use, then in 347 days when I can retire, I'll be a happier policeman.
Well, the fact that he walked himself in is incredible. That's amazing.
It's insane. This kid is something else.
I will say, completely switching gears, but the trend in police work is becoming more isolationist. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how you guys, if you have partner cars, I'm assuming that you do, being a bigger department. Is that accurate? No? Okay. Well, yeah, that seems to be the trend across the country, is like single officer cars, like lack of interaction. There's so much done on the computers that we don't see each other. You know what I mean? So like, I know here you can go your whole shift sometimes without running into another cop. If you're going to solo runs or you're giving disregards, and it can create a lot of negative mindsets. You know what I mean? And just the fact that you guys are doing this and creating the nonprofit and doing things to give back and building community and building that solidarity is I would say more beneficial than anything else that we've talked about yet.
Camaraderie is huge. The people that come in to train with us, we're like family. When we went to Dallas to compete, we all had our own hotel room, but we were sitting there watching the UFC together and just having a good time. So it's multifaceted. It's healthy for all of our officers. We talk about physical and mental wellness. I mean, we need it. Our guys, I'm sure like yours, or where you work, our patrolmen, they have a very difficult job. I'm not sure I would survive in today's climate on the street. I know my place is training them and not necessarily doing what they do anymore. But you're right. They're by themselves an awful lot unless something big happens, for sure.
Yeah. And it's things like this where we have to reinforce the brotherhood, as almost cliche as it sounds, but that thin blue line, man, like this helps to build that. And if we don't, then we put ourselves in danger of every negative thing you could think on the job, beyond the physical and, the emotional, the financial, that's how marriages fail even. So the fact that you're doing this, like, I don't even know if it's come across your mind that you're giving people so much more than just the physical aspect of training. Like you're probably saving marriages. You're probably, you're building cops in so many more aspects than the physical. And again, I can't commend you enough for what you guys are doing.
How many officers train in your gym? I was curious about that. Quite a few.
In my CrossFit gym?
Yes, sir.
So my CrossFit gym's private. So we started for the department, and then it didn't work out to do the nonprofit side of it. So I said, screw it. I'm going to start my own gym, and nobody's going to tell me what to do here except me. So I don't know. We've got probably 30 to 40 cops to train here.
See, you're doing the same thing. They have an outlet. The physical stress gets helped. They get better physically. I mean, really, that is key. You mentioned it in one of your podcasts. We die within 4 years of retiring. I'm 42. I'm not looking to die at 46.
Right.
You know, I want to go and be stupid with my wife because my kids are out of the house.
Yeah. Have another chapter of your life, like we don't do this job and do what we do and see what we see day in and day out, so that when we're done with it, the thanks we get is the coffin. That's not acceptable.
I'm not doing 40 years. I don't know about you.
No, absolutely not. I got too much other stuff I want to do. So yeah, man. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I'll I guess kick it back to you for just before we take off. Where can people find out more about you, about your team, maybe make donations to the 501c3?
Sure thing. IronPigsTraining.com is our official website. I don't have a donate button there, but I will put one up there pretty quickly, especially now. But from there, you can find us on Facebook, on Instagram. Recently started a YouTube channel. There were some officers that worked night shift at one of the stations called North Shepherd. One of them trains maybe 2 years in grappling, and they requested these videos. Again, it's putting my face out there for the very first time, but I'm sticking with police combatives with regard to that. And Officer Crawford is also helping me an awful lot with these videos and helping with the Instagram page as well, because I'm older. I don't really care about social media all that much. So he's developing that, and we're putting these videos up. So everybody can just go to ironpigstraining.com and find us on Instagram at the same name.
Awesome. And I know you said there's not a donate button yet, but if somebody were to get up there, you could just DM you through either the Instagram or the Facebook page and connect with you that way.
Absolutely, and I respond to everybody. We do have really cool workout gear available for sale, and literally everything is going to Officer Daly until we know that he's going to be okay. Him and Officer Reed. Recently had quite a few narcotics officers shot in the raid as well. So we're so small, I don't have enough. I wish I could give everything I got to all these guys, but I can't. And Daly was the first one. So as soon as we get enough money, I can't wait to write a check on behalf of the Houston Police Grappling Team to Daly and Reed. There's actually a benefit at the Houston Police Officers Union this Friday that we'll be attending to support them as well.
That's fantastic, man. Well, it's been an absolute blast, and we'll have to do this again for sure.
Yeah, you call, I'll answer the phone.
All right. Well, thank you, sir, so much.
All right, we'll talk to you later.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed the show today. If you dig what I am doing with this, I would appreciate it if you would go on iTunes and give him a 5-star review. And if you have any questions about anything, you can email me, anthony@alphatrainingsystems.com. And if you know anybody that you'd like to see on the show, hit me up. If you have any feedback for me, I'd love to hear it. Until next time, guys, stay safe and stay alive.